Hello, discerning podcast listeners. This is Tom Kenny, and you are listening to the Geekcast Radio Network.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Cinema Geeks. I am one of your Cinema Geeks, OptimusSolo, and joining me today is Miss HardCandiMandi.
Hey, dude.
Hey, Dudette. MovieRevolt, Dan.
Hey, Dudis.
Matt, you're not left with many options. How you doing?
I'm good, Deuterino.
Excellent.
I started a thing there.
You did. And we're all here to talk about movies, because that's what we do here on the Cinema Geeks. And today, we are talking about another one of our video game films. That's right. I know we kind of said the wrong film last time, but we're talking about In the Name of the King, a dungeon siege tale. So that is what is up today. Next time we go to Max Payne. So they both came out the same year, so it's an easy mistake there. But In the Name of the King, we can't let it not be talked about, right? One more chance to go into the Uwe Boll. Have we done the Uwe Boll retrospective now? Did we double that? We did the video game series, and then we somehow also got through his entire filmography?
No, because we haven't done Blood Rain 2, Blood Rain 3, and The Name of the King 2. There's so many movies we're missing.
But we covered as many films as anyone should from his filmography, correct, Dan?
Well, we did one, so yeah.
So, as we said, In the Name of the King obviously is directed by Uwe Boll. This one's not written by Uwe Boll, though. Written by Doug Taylor, based on Dungeon Siege by Gas Powered Games. And stars a bunch of people. Unlike some of his other films, there's a lot more name recognition here with the likes of Jason Statham, Lily Sobieski, John Rhys-Davies, Ron Perlman, Christina Loken, Matthew Lillard, Ray Liotta, Burt Reynolds. The list goes on. In the Name of the King was released in 2007, 2008 in the United States, 2007 in a few other countries. It's about 2-hour long film that is an action fantasy film. So first of all, like we normally do, let's get a quick glance at anybody's experience with the actual games that this film series is based off of. Matt, did you ever play, or do you know anything about the games?
Oh, yeah, I played a bunch of them. I own Dungeon Siege 1, 2, and 3. It's interesting. Dungeon Siege 1 was just essentially, a lot of people would argue an improvement on the Diablo style of game. Diablo pretty much invented it, but Dungeon Siege added a lot of modern things, like when you drink a potion, you drink as much as you need rather than just downing a whole potion. It added party elements where, if you were playing single player, you could have a whole team of 5 guys. Pretty classic game. Dungeon Siege 3 has moved entirely away from that, whereas instead of choosing a class and choosing a character and being able to make your own character, it was just hey, these are the 4 characters you can choose from, and your party is going to be these 4 characters as you find them in the game. Yeah, I've played them all.
Okay. Amanda, any experience with the Dungeon Siege games?
None.
None? Zero zilch? Dan?
I have negative experience with them, yeah.
You have a negative experience with them, or just lack of experience with them?
I lack so little that it's negative
Gotcha.
amount of experience.
And I would be like Amanda. I have no experience with these. I didn't even know this was a game. I just thought it was a bunch of fantasy movies. So, Matt, that means we have to rely on you. How well did the movie translate the game onto the big screen? Did they use any of the same story elements, any of the same characters, or elements of any kind?
Actually, yeah. This was done by someone who actually, when you said it was written by Uwe, it wasn't written by Uwe Boll, I was immediately oh. Now I get it. That's why this is the least terrible Uwe Boll film. The person who wrote this, if they didn't at least play, had some love for or heard about the Dungeon Siege movie, because it kind of, the Dungeon Siege game is a little bit closer to the hero's journey, I think. This one kind of takes elements from it without actually being it. But being a humble farmer at the beginning, and then an attack on your city makes you start this adventure, that's pulled right out of the game. slowly building a party of a bunch of random characters, including like fae and mages and stuff, straight out of the game. Like, there's a number of elements that are taken from the game, and used as well as they could be in a movie, because the game takes, like, I don't know, like 50 hours to beat. It's one of those really long-form RPG-style games, and you can't really show that in a 2-hour flick. But I would say this is one of the closest representations we've had in the video game series, in all honesty.
Interesting. So high marks for its relation to the actual games. Since a few of us haven't played any of the games, though, let's see if it also gets high marks as a film. So I want to start this one. I usually toss it to one of you guys first, but I want to kind of intro this one because when this movie started, I'm seeing the fantasy elements. I'm feeling the kind of aesthetics of a lower budget, Lord of the Rings type of flick, the fantasy action elements. And we see the likes of people like Ray Liotta and John Rhys Davies and Ron Perlman, and I'm like, okay, these are somewhat legit, as far as the fantasy realm and as far as the action realm, Jason Statham, etc. And then early on, there's a scene where we go to the castle, and it is Matthew Lillard and Burt Reynolds. And I feel like that was the end of the movie. Like, when you see Burt Reynolds and Matthew Lillard, I just, like, all the hopes that I had for the film basically went out the window. I'm like, oh, I was wrong to get excited about this film. Why would anybody in the world cast Matthew Lillard in any type of film?
What?
I like Matthew Lillard.
This was
not in this movie,
I have never liked him in anything.
I feel like this is the perfect role for Matthew Lillard. Like, perfect. Oh. This, like, weird kind of, like, foppish, androgynous weirdo.
To me, it immediately makes it feel like Spaceballs version of it, though. It's like a spoof version. It's like we're watching the SNL take on Lord of the Rings as soon as you see him. Like, I can't stand him. Maybe I'm in an island by myself, but...
You didn't like him in Scream?
I don't like him in anything.
Did you see 13 Ghosts?
No.
Like, I think he plays an unlikable character well, but that's exactly the role he's supposed to be doing here. Like, I like him so much more in this than Wing Commander. Like, I think what he should be doing is playing this character, only more as, like, a good guy. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like I like him not as... He's not an intimidating villain, right? And that makes him a crappy villain. But he does have a lot of these, like, unlikable characteristics, so, like, he's good in a villain role.
I think the thing I don't like about him in every role he's ever done is the way his facial expressions are just so over the top and so exaggerated that it drives me insane. But, okay, so maybe we'll disagree about Matthew Lillard, but what is Burt Reynolds doing in this film? Like, that role should have been like Sean Connery, or, I mean, not that he would do this film, but I'm just saying it should have been somebody that could hold their own, and Burt Reynolds just... I don't understand that at all. So
he was like Ben Kingsley in Blood Rain.
Yeah, it was like, I'm here, and I'm going to do as least amount of acting and moving as possible, but not quite to the level of Ben Kingsley. I don't know. So those two threw me off immediately. But what was your guys' initial take on the film? Amanda, you had seen this one before. So what was your memories and kind of what was your take as you started to watch it this time?
So I was bored as shit the first time I watched this. And I was even more bored the second time I watched this. I just couldn't get into it. I mean, there were some cool things.
That strikes me as odd to you because it has a lot of elements that are in movies that you like.
Yeah, I don't know. I just didn't care. Like, it just did not make me care.
Didn't like the characters, didn't like the story, all the above.
I just didn't think the acting was great. The story seemed like a mismatch of, like Lord of the Rings and King Arthur, and it was just taking too much from other things and not doing them well. I think I liked a couple of the visual things. Like, I think the production was pretty good on this, and like the effects and things were pretty well done. But the fight scenes, some of them were just like slow and just very, you could tell, like, you could see the choreography in it, like it wasn't slick. And the characters, I don't know, they were, some were muted, some were exaggerated, and just none of them worked for me.
All right. Dan, what did you think about In the Name of the King, and why are all of these people signing up to do a Uwe Boll film?
I don't. That is my biggest question. Like, Ray Liotta, like, what? This good. This is one of my all-time favorite movies. Like, what are you? Like, why? Why are you doing this? Like, Jason Statham had a career. Like, he's in like he's not winning Oscars, but he has like Transporter franchises and things like that. Like, my first impression with this movie was how creepy Ray Liotta is. Like, uncomfortably creepy.
He's such a lech. That was my first note. Ew, Ray Liotta, you lech. That's what I wrote.
When he's like with the king's daughter, it just seems like so uncomfortable. Like, it just does not. It's like those sequences are just so uncomfortable.
She's not the king's daughter, and that's a confusion of the film.
Okay, I thought I was not truly understanding who she was then, because I thought she played some sort of role in that.
She's the Magus's daughter. She's the daughter of the Merlin character.
John Rhys Davies.
Okay.
Yes, who is just being kept at the castle for her own safety, I guess.
It took me a good while to figure out who was who in this film. That's for damn sure.
Ray Liotta definitely didn't work. Like, his delivery of the lines was so cheesy. Like, his voice, what he was like, it's just his normal voice, but it didn't fit like what should have been given in the performance.
I'm convinced that everything that Ray Liotta has done post Goodfellas or post like that time era, he's been under the influence of something. Because like if you watch him in any of the films from the last like 10 years, his eyes are like half squinty shut, like in every role, and he's just acting weird. I don't know what's going on with Ray Liotta. Like, somebody get him help.
He's in a TV show with J-Lo right now, and he looks awful.
But like, my first thought was like, obviously this is clearly very influenced by like Lord of the Rings. So as Uwe Boll saw that and it's like, I can do that, and I'll even get one of the actors that was in that, which. Again, surprising that he did that. But also that, like, this was a long way, like, there is a lot behind this, because there's a lot of production, there's a ton of extras, like, there's, like, this was a lot of, it was weird, because in a lot of ways, there was like, he had to kind of step up his game, but also was often lazy with different things, too. But I was actually kind of surprised by the production value compared to, like, all the other Uwe Boll movies we've seen, because there was at times where I'm like, wow, this looks like an actual movie, and pieces are being put together, and I think it's like leagues better than some of the other films. Like Postal is like, and Sky Commander, and or no, he didn't do that one, but Alone in the Dark or whatever. I thought this actually seemed a little bit better, but ultimately just feels like a very lesser version of like a Lord of the Rings, and the comedy too just really threw me off at times. Like the sequence of them crossing the bridge, like going through the rope, it just seems so out of place in between scenes of like him legitimately losing his son, and it's like suddenly now here's a slapstick comedy scene. I don't know, it was a little off for me.
Yeah, and it's actually it's funny that you say some of those things, because it does fit with some of the statistics there, because the production budget was $60 million. And that is by far his most expensive film at that time. So I don't think he's ever done a film that's cost more than that. So you can definitely see that there's more money involved, and there's more stars involved. He even brought back some of his cast members from former films that we see. You know, Kristana Loken, or however you say her name, from Blood Rain, is in this.
Was she the fairy force lady?
Alora?
Yes, she was the fairy lady.
The interesting thing, another interesting thing though, is that he had two versions of this apparently that he shot too. There was another version that's like a half hour longer than this one.
What?
So there's like the 2 hour 45-minute version. I don't know if that's a real thing or if he just said there was, but talking
extended
about
editions, does that exist?
Yeah. But like I said, the budget was $60 million, box office $13. So most expensive film, but not nearly bringing it back at the box office. Another comical thing, I guess. It's one of those things that had a better life as a DVD sale or Blu-ray release, because its theater box office gross was $13 million. Its DVD/Blu-ray was $14.8. So it actually made more money on DVD and Blu-ray than it did in the theater. So I don't know why people are buying the Blu-ray and DVD. I mean, I guess we did, but it was $1. But
you bought a secondhand though, so that doesn't count.
Right.
But I definitely bought it brand new off of Amazon.
So you're adding to the numbers. It's 14.8 and growing.
I did the math, and it was like, oh, I could rent these off of the Amazon streaming app, for $11, or I can buy them all on DVD for $9. And it's like, one of them I own them, and then it's cheaper, so I went with that one.
Matt, we didn't get your original take though on the film. So what was your take on them as movies, and how did they work or not work for you?
Well, they're not like, this movie is by far the best Uwe Boll film, and it's by far the best representation of the video game of anything we've done, and I think that those two are not things that should be thrown out lightly. Like, I think that there's a good movie in here. I think with a different director, and like, really probably just a different director, right? Like, 'cause there's a lot of talent in the casting, right? Like I love Rhys Davies. Like yeah. He's always so good. He gives a great performance. And Burt Reynolds is very kingly. He's a very kingly dude. I think that what we need to do is we need to get rid of the wife and the child. I think that those two don't serve a purpose. Well, okay, here's the thing. The wife serves a purpose of being just the damsel in distress, but that's it. And I don't see that as a good... That's the worst motivator a character could have. And that's the worst... Like, that's your biggest female role, right? Because, like, right. you have the daughter of the Magus, who does literally nothing. You have the fairy who goes, never come to these woods again, ever. And then he comes to the woods. She's like, I'm going to join you and help you win this. And then they walk to the castle and she goes, I'm out, and walks away. Like, she literally does nothing. Like, all of the female characters do nothing except for the one that gets captured and is the motivator for the male protagonist. Like, that's such a shitty story. So what you do is you remove those two characters. You have his motivation be that the guy who raised him as a child, Ron Perlman, dies to the Krug. And so now he's on a revenge tale. Then you give the Magus lady, like, you make her useful, and then you have there be a love story where together these two adventuring people slowly fall in love. You could make a good movie with the elements here. Like, just a little bit of rearranging, a little bit of rewriting. A better director could have made a great movie with what we had. Like, the actors are great. They're just poorly directed. Like, there's a huge budget for special effects. They do an amazing job. Like, that weird ass Ray Liotta, Rhys Davies sword fight was like amazing, like, right? It was like the best scene of the movie, like, and like, they could have made a good movie, but they didn't.
I think you are correct. A different director for sure, but I think the writing does need to be shored up quite a bit, because there is a lot of things in this movie that either serve no purpose or don't make any sense. Like, at one point, they're kind of speaking as if you kill one of the Krugs or whatever that's controlled by Ray Liotta, and then that will bring down the entire army. Like, they'll all just fall, which does happen at one point, but at other points that does nothing. So I didn't quite get that, because there were some times where they killed, like, the one that kind of faded off into misty wind-like wisps or whatever, and it had no effect on anybody else, and everybody else is still just fighting. So I don't understand that. There is that point where they have the human cannonball that they set on fire and then shoot into the crowd, which
is great,
but is not thought out well, because it did no damage. Like, it literally, like, had no effect on the actual, like, battle that was going on. Like, it's a great idea, and then it was just literally a guy that killed one guy. Like, yeah. He just burned one guy.
Like, at one point they set a Krug on fire, and then he walks up and gives a hug to a horse, and then the horse is on fire. Like, it's so dumb. Like, this movie has a bunch of really hilarious dumb elements, and a bunch of just neat... Like, they could have cut a half an hour out of this movie, like, made some more changes, like, the changes I made plus some more, and made a really tight movie. But they didn't. It's just sprawling with endless, needless storylines. Here's the thing. I think Matthew Lillard plays the perfect Matthew Lillard role in this. It serves no function. The whole role of Matthew Lillard is like, I want to be king, I want to be king. Like, oh, he plays in the king, but it didn't work. Oh, like, I assassinated the king, but that didn't work. But then eventually it does. And it's like, I get taken in for treason, but apparently, as long as your treason kills the king, it doesn't matter. Which is the worst kind of law ever. Like, hey, as long as you successfully kill the king, you become the king. That's not a law anywhere. And then he becomes king, and then immediately everyone goes, no, he's not. This guy's king. We just met him. He's cooler. Like, so his whole storyline, this whole B plot, serves no purpose other than to kill Burt Reynolds, which you could have done with a Krug fire hug. Like, you could have just gotten rid of him. Like, so, like, Matthew Lillard's character, though I think is perfect for him, serves no point in this movie at all. So you cut him out. Like, Jason Statham's brother-in-law, like him and Ron Perlman's story, where it's like they lead a slave rebellion that kills like 4 Krug and then Ron Perlman, so that's pointless. And then they lead another slave rebellion that kills maybe, I don't know, a couple dozen slaves, and then they get saved by the hero, where it's like, hey, if you just stayed in your shackles for another 10 minutes, all these Krug would have just died because we're gonna win the fight and no one has to die. So his entire storyline is pointless. Again, like, it's literally Jason Statham and then 9 pointless subplots that go nowhere.
And then the one biggest subplot tied to Jason Statham, which is obviously, his child has been killed. Spoiler alert. I'm trying to do that on purpose so nobody watches this film. And then we have the mystery of, is his wife killed or captured or what? And instead of like letting that be something that we're unsure of for the better part of the movie and like making it worth something like in the latter half, maybe the final act, they do a pointless scene where they show her alive. Like, they cut away to a scene, show that the wife is alive, it serves no purpose, and then they go right back to the story as usual. Like, you defeated all of the mystery, all of the suspense and everything, and it wasn't in a way that served any purpose whatsoever.
Other than to, like, that was the one that advances Ron Perlman and the brother-in-law subplot of dying. Because they show up, they go, oh, you are alive, and they both get knocked out.
No, it's before that. It's before that. They just do like a flash to a sequence of her in captivity.
Also, like, here's the thing, though, like, that doesn't serve a purpose in the story, but maybe it does to make Jason Statham's character more likable, because, like, otherwise, he's just like, yeah, she might be alive, and I'm going to just, like, throw my life away and maybe find her. Like, and this way, it's like, oh, he's striving towards a thing. It's not a good idea, it's a really bad idea, but, like, that's the only reason I could see.
Dan, should we just let Matt take over? Because I'm finding more entertainment of listening to Matt's take on the film than I got from watching the film.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you. Yeah, one thing we touch upon, if they were going to not make this movie again, not only a better director, but maybe if Jason Statham's going to be the son of the king, get someone that he at least resembles the tiniest bit, or at least has close to the same accent, or like, it's just, it's like, yeah, as you can see, Burt Reynolds and Jason Statham, they're the spitting image of one another.
Nobody looks like anybody that's supposed to be related to anybody in this film. Like,
yeah.
Like his isn't, who's the other guy that's with Ron Perlman? Is that supposed to be his brother-in-law? Is it just brother-in-law?
Brother-in-law.
Okay, I guess he doesn't need to look like anybody, but it was just like, just so many people that didn't seem connected to anybody, and that's why I was confused as to who, like Dan was saying, who that girl's the daughter of who, and this, that, and the other. Just.
It was kind of interesting too how Ray Liotta finds out that that's actually Farmer's wife just by the fact that they bring her to him by accident. Like, it's like, oh wait, like that. It's like, really? It's like, you're big.
Not only that, like, they bring her to him like, oh, hey, whoops, this is the boss's room. What are we bringing 2 slaves here for? We'll leave. And he's like, get out of here with those slaves. And then he goes, wait a minute. You smell like you've got him inside of you. And it's like, excuse me?
That's the creepiest.
It's like, you're pregnant with his baby.
I'm guessing in the extended version they flesh that out a little bit more, but I thought that was kind of funny. It's like, really?
we all know that in the extended version the only thing that's added is just more creepy, like, undertones of lechery. like the line, I'll take his daughter's virtue, and different things like that. Like, oh my god. What about tree ninjas? Can we talk about tree ninjas?
Dude, the Royal Ninjas are amazing for no reason.
They might have saved a part of the movie for me. Amanda's like, tree ninjas, and immediately had interest for like at least 5 seconds.
For no reason. Whenever the king was in a fight, there were a dozen ninjas. I love it. Like, this movie has a lot of great elements. I mean, they're not good, but they're hilarious.
Apparently, the elements, though, were not enough to get this film received well from a critical standpoint. Film currently holds a 4% on Rotten Tomatoes based on about 50 reviews. Here's the quote. As far as the consensus on Rotten Tomatoes, features mostly wooden performances, laughable dialogue, and shoddy production values. And The Name of the King fulfills all expectations of Uwe Boll film. So, there's that. Amanda, you had notes. Did you want to say anything else? Anything you liked about the film besides tree ninjas?
I did like one element when the mage and his daughter did that. Like I'm turning into like particles, and you like see their like skeleton and their muscles, and then they disintegrate and travel that way, like on the wind, and then they like become solid again. I thought that was pretty dope.
Oh, you reminded me of the most ridiculous scene I may have ever seen in the film, or at least in the last like 5 years. When they do the rope sequence to get him from one chasm to the cliff or whatever, conceived action sequence I think I've ever seen. And I'm pretty sure that's not how physics work. Do you guys know which one I'm talking about? When Jason Statham needs to get over to where the Magi or the Madge, whatever that guy is.
It's right towards the end, right, where they're like
they do him and the elf girl or whatever do like the running start, grab the rope, swing,
and she like whips him across.
And she somehow whips him, and then he goes flying all the way over to that ledge. Like, it was ridiculous.
But like even more ridiculous is it's like they had this like moment, right, where they're like, we're gonna go assault the castle, we're gonna kill the evil mage. Or the king of the Krug, whatever, and we're gonna save my wife. And it's like one character's motivation is like he killed her father, and one or is going to, and he tried to steal her magic through kissing her, or something. And then like one motivation is Jason Statham, and then like the fairy's like, I don't want them in my forest, and so they're going to burn it down, so I'm gonna go kill them. And like, was there a fourth character? I feel like there was a fourth character, but I don't think there was. And, like, all three of them walk up, and they go, oh, there's a cliff here, there's a hole over there. And so they whip Jason Statham across, and then they just kind of, like, stand there like, oh, what now? And then, like, I think Kristanna Loken's character just goes, I'm out of this movie now, and walks away. and then the mage's daughter stands there until he dies, and then she accidentally teleports. That's the writing of this of this climactic scene where it's like, this is the party. Dungeon Siege is a game about a party going towards a goal, and all of a sudden they go, let's not do that. And then like that, just nothing. Like, it's so weird. Why does any of that happen?
The film was nominated for 5 Razzie Awards, including Worst Picture, Worst Screenplay, Worst Supporting Actor for Burt Reynolds, Worst Supporting Actress for Leela Sobieski, and Uwe Boll won for Worst Director. So it's got that going for it. Dan, any other notes about Dungeon Siege and The Name of the King? And does this film inspire you to watch either of the 2 sequels?
No, it does not. Though the sequels have Dolph Lundgren, so that does have me intrigued. So he clearly was the one person missing from this. No, I think we caught it. Though there was that scene where I can't remember any character's name, but Ron Perlman and the mage of the king like bump into each other and indicate like, oh, I know you. And then that's never touched upon ever again. I was like, that was going to lead to something, but it didn't. I'm like, all right, well, why was that there? It was like a lot of that. It was just interesting. No, I mean, it was just. I also felt like this. It felt like it went on forever. Like
yeah.
And there's a longer version apparently.
It just took a long time. Like this, like the action, like fights, and they just were like, this is still going, huh? Man. Well, so it's just, yeah. Oof.
Matt, Any other final thoughts from you before we go around and give our grades for In the Name of the King, a Dungeon Siege Tale, which is a name that's way too long and not necessary?
Oh my god, when I was shortening it in our little the group message, when I was like INTOTKS, it was just like, this is the shortest I could get this, guys. I can't think of a better way to shorten this, and it's still like 9 characters. I do have one thing to point out. Like, we're doing these episodes like right next to each other that is this and Mallrats, and they have the exact same actress playing like the exact same role, in that she is the main motivator for the male protagonist.
Yeah, I thought that was crazy.
that was a really weird coincidence that only happens because we're doing these two things at like these particular times. But I thought it was an interesting thing to point out.
Did you ever think that we were going to have a video game film and a Kevin Smith film that we viewed in the same like time period that had an actor in common?
No.
All right, let's get grades then around the horn. Amanda, starting with you. Out of 10, what do you give In the Name of the King, a Dungeon Siege Tale? And is it, in fact, the best Uwe Boll film we've covered?
Yeah.
And you hated it.
I'll give it a 3.
Is that higher than you gave whatever the other ones are? House of the Dead,
sure.
Alone in the Dark, and Postal? I know it's higher than you gave Postal.
Yeah.
All right, Dan, what do you think for In the Name of the King?
Oh, man. I'll go 5. Yeah. For on the video game scale, like 4 or 5, but I'll go 5.
Nice. Good score for you. Matt, what do you got?
So, like, as far as movies go, like a 5, but, like, if we want to grade it on a curve, like a 7?
I am with Dan. I'm straight at a 5. Like, I just think that's good. Like, there's 4 spots for films to be worse than it, when we've had 4 films worse than it for sure, and there's spots for films to be better than it. It's like the best Uwe Boll film, which means it's like still in the top 10 worst video game films of all time, which I still can't. I don't know. I find it funny that there's a list like that because they're all so bad up to this point. So that is In the Name of the King, a Dungeon Siege Tale. You guys will have to let us know if you agree or disagree with our takes on the film. That also means that we're down to our final 5. Our final 5 video game films. So next up, like we teased last time, is again another 2008 film with Max Payne. Then we go to Prince of Persia, Need for Speed, and then finish with Warcraft and Assassin's Creed from just recently. So that is what is left. Amanda, what are you looking forward to most out of those 5 films?
I'm going to say Max Payne and Prince of Persia.
So the next 2.
Yes.
Then after that, you're out.
Yeah.
Matt, what do you think? What's going to be the best of the 5 final ones?
Oh, man. I want to say Warcraft just because I know it's going to be like this, but with more money behind it.
Could be, yeah. That definitely had some production value to it. Dan, is there any chance that one of these 5 has a possibility of cracking into your top 3 or top 5 video game films?
Man, well, that's there's always a chance. I'm still holding out hope for Prince of Persia. Like it's one of the few of the. I think I've seen most. I haven't seen Assassin's Creed, but I just know based upon what everyone said, it's awful. I'm hoping like Prince of Persia will just be a meh movie, so that would make it a contender for the top 3.
That also means that there's only 5 more films for you to get in your entry into our contest to win a 6-pack of video game films. You have to do that by going to iTunes and leaving us a review. It's that simple. You just go to iTunes, leave us a review. It can be positive, it can be negative, it can be neutral. If you do it before we're done with this series, you're entered into a contest to win a 6-pack of movies. I think we have 4 or 5 entries so far, so get in there while you can, and you might win something. We should
stop giving the number of entries that we have because it's a very low number and it's fucking sad.
For iTunes reviews, that's quite a few though in a couple month period for a lot of podcasts. Yeah, that's a decent number. It's a decent number.
Makes me sad inside.
And as we mentioned, we're also doing our Kevin Smith retrospective. We have already obviously put out our episode on Clerks, and you can look forward to all the other films in Kevin Smith's filmography if you stay tuned to our feed and keep up to date with us on Twitter. You can do that in a bunch of different ways. You can either keep track of the show and everything that's going on with that as far as new episodes by following at Cinema Geekcast, or you can get involved with any of us individually and see what we're up to and start a conversation with us. You can do that by following our individual Twitters, which, Amanda, yours is?
At HardCandiMandi, Eyes, No Eyes.
Dan, yours is?
At MovieRevolt.
Matt?
I am at FridleyCent.
And I am at OptimusSolo. So start the conversation with us or with the main movie, the podcast feed, and we'll definitely try to interact there. You can also interact with us on the website by going to www.geekcastradio.com. Just find any of our episode posts, and there's a place to put a comment there towards the bottom, and we'll interact with you there as well. So until next time when we review Max Payne, that's going to be it for this week. Tune in next time for another chance to listen to the Cinema Geeks.